Welcome to episode 287 of the Center Ring Esports podcast presented by Alt. And this is going to be the best episode ever. We are back from our 1 week break. Not even a week break, just a one episode break. But boy, does that not stop esports. No one told esports to take a week off. We have a ton of catching up to do. We have Valorant to get to, as the first part of the First Strike has wrapped up. So we have our first teams to get into the finals there, along with 100Thieves and OpTic are both back. So we'll talk that, and also have Adam Nelson from Philly Esports to start off the show as well. Of course, some e-news to get to. But before I get to any of that, got to tell you about the show sponsor in Alt Esports. Check them out, altesports.com. That's ULT esports.com for your top-of-the-line esports apparel that you will not regret. They have their new lineup, the Reset, coming up, I think, any day now. It's going to be a release, so be the first to get there. Some pretty sick tie-dye and kind of new look that I've seen behind the scenes. And you would have seen some behind the scenes if you check them out on their Instagram. Every Friday, they do a live stream showing you behind the scenes on their style, also giving away crazy discount codes. I'm talking 40, 50% off discount codes, people. With the holidays rolling around, perfect times to get your loved ones what they've always wanted, a 101 Burglars hoodie from the Center Ring boys. So get that, altesports.com.
Hey, this is Ian Crim6 Porter, and you're listening to the Center Ring.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello, everybody. Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. This is episode 287, coming to you live and or pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date is 11/11/2020. The time is 8:51 p.m. Follow us on Twitter at the Center Ring. And join the Discord and all that fun stuff there to be a part of that conversation. Get your Timmy nominees and category ideas in. We announced on Twitter today the nominees for the... is it nominees or nominations? Or does it matter?
Nominees is fine.
Nominees.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's interchangeable.
The nominees.
Nominees. But you would have seen our first nominees for our first category, Good Dude of the Year. And you can see that already on Twitter at the Center Ring. My name is Tim. I'll be your captain for this journey into esports. And alongside me, as always, is my best friend, my brown friend. It's Anuj. What's up?
What up, dude? Finally back. No more wedding festivities. Kind of freed up here this week, and it was a good time. We had a lot of fun. It was weird for a COVID wedding, like 25, 30 people, but it was a lot of fun. Happy to be back. Ready to get this going.
I'm glad that you had fun. I saw some pictures of the festivities. Looked beautiful. What's the food situation like at an Indian wedding?
Indian food.
Indian food, okay. I just thought I'd ask.
That's surprising.
I just thought I'd ask.
I was like, oh, it's a nice little sesame chicken and
roasted chicken, some green beans. My wife would love it. I would be the guy sneaking in some McDonald's chicken nugs.
We would probably send you to the bathroom pretty quick, knowing you.
Knowing me?
Yeah, knowing you.
Speaking of our guest on the show today, Adam from Philly Esports, sir. Okay, you're the one who spent the entire trip at the Overwatch League finals in the bathroom. Not
Getting
me.
Food poisoning versus not having a diverse food eating situation is two different things. I got the shits because I had bad meat.
I have a very diverse platter, sir. I eat chicken nuggets from every restaurant.
That is true.
Good to be back, though. Crazy that we took one episode off. So much has happened. And honestly, it's kind of crazy when you think, like, we used to only do one episode a week before we jumped over to 2 episodes a week, like maybe like a year or so ago.
Yeah, I mean we've grown esports so much thanks to the content we put out there that it just requires more airtime now, to really cover it all. I
100%.
don't think without our hard work over the past couple of years, like there's no CDL, there's no Overwatch League. I
Franchise
mean,
only happened because they heard it on this show first. They were like, "Oh, that's actually a pretty good idea. We should try that." So you're welcome, esports. So no, it's good. I'm glad to be back. My office. I took the day off. You had a wedding. I took the week off to redo my office, which in typical me cleaning fashion, I somehow took what was a messy office and turned it into a war zone. There is shit on the webcam. If you're watching, you really can't see it. First off, you can see I'm like a mile away from the camera. This looks weird to me. Even like looking on stream, I'm smaller than you, which I think is like for the first time ever, my head looks smaller than yours.
maybe this is the new setup then.
I really don't like it. I really, it
You,
makes
you
me,
do look like really far
I
away.
am really far away. Like
Yeah,
this is
you-
me,
you
my
look far.
full hand is outreached and I'm not even anywhere near the camera. This is weird. It's not going to last very long. I'm going to redo it. The working at home is really hurting me right now because I need to have that station going for work, my day job, but I'm going to figure it out. But right now, if you look like 1 pixel off camera, it's just shit is
It looks
everywhere.
incredibly clean from this view, though.
And that's all that I really cared about to get today going. I just
I do
needed it
miss
to
the
be
Baby
clean.
Yoda. Like I feel like the Baby Yoda needs to be somewhere in frame.
Baby Yoda's. I got
Like put that on the desk to your side or something over there.
Baby
Just
Yoda.
there we go. There we go.
Baby Yoda is right there.
I know we got Adam waiting, but I was
Yes.
pretty happy with the Mandalorian episode this week. There was so much Baby Yoda time. It was awesome.
It's really good. We'll get to that in a moment because in typical TCR fashion, we did start late. We are making a guest wait, which is super rude of us. So let's get Adam on the show. Uno momento, por favor, says I'm going to attempt to do this as always live. 1 second here. We'll go to the starting screen just so I can call.
Do we need to go to the other?
Yeah, I'm going to try to do this video call here. See how this works. Oh, there's Adam. And do we have a
Gentlemen,
news?
With that big smile as always.
can you guys hear me okay?
Loud and clear, sir. How's it going?
Wonderful. How are you fine gentlemen doing tonight?
Good, my dude. How are you?
Good.
I'm doing
Chaos.
well, man. It's good to
Chaotic.
talk to you guys. You guys are looking good.
Tim's got like a new high-end camera over there and
Yeah.
cleaning up his office and making himself look all pretty. So, the
I
life
like the
is
new
good.
office. Yeah, it looks good. I like it a lot.
It's chaotic right now, Adam. I'm trying to readjust the web. It's just, you know how things go. Like,
Yeah, I heard you talking about the mess, man. It's tough. You just gotta
well,
one day at a time.
and it's like all like live production where it's like you don't know anything. Like we're like 10 minutes before go time, and then all of a sudden my camera is just
Right.
not cooperating. And
But you
you're
know
like,
what? It makes you look a little slimmer. Like you look good. It looks like you know.
"Well, I don't want
Yeah,
to.
'cause you're like fat otherwise is what he's saying. So like from this view right now, you look like a skinny little well-built kid,
Although
Uh-huh.
I am fat. There's no denying
big
that.
boned.
It also doesn't help though that I just have a massive head compared to normal, and a Nuge also just has a strangely small head.
It's all that knowledge, man. I mean, where else is it gonna go? That's why your head's so big. That's why you have the #1 esports podcast because you know the most about esports. So
That's a
why
lie. That's
I
a
get all
lie.
my news from you guys.
I asked the doctor if head size matters for intelligence. He said it does not. So
There
that's
you
a
go.
lie. I'm putting that to rest right now because my son has a small head percentage wise. So I had to ask him. I was like, any worries, any effects, anything that I should know about? He goes, no, it's absolutely normal within this range. So my small head does not talk about brain size whatsoever.
Well, Adam, we wanted to have you on the show because A, we love you and you're a friend of the show, but also you and everyone over at Philly Esports started a venture up during COVID, nonetheless, called the Collegiate Aces. It's your guys' collegiate Rocket. Is it just going to be? I know at the moment it's Rocket League. Is it only
Right.
going to be Rocket League, or is this like just an umbrella name for everything?
It's so the Aces Collegiate Series is the brand, is the opportunity. We're doing for all esports that colleges are pursuing. But we did our first pilot season this October with 6 local universities, and we chose Rocket League because we're very well versed with it. It's a very easy game to set up, and we wanted to start with something that was very accessible before we started branching into other esports that are a little bit more complicated when it comes to getting colleges connected. But that's why we picked Rocket League for the first one.
I'd have to assume that even too, because like with everything going on, obviously with Corona not being able to do the live events, you being one that we've always supported in the grassroots scene, right? For those who don't know, Philly Esports, based out of Philly, go figure. And you guys take grassroots tournaments in Smash, Rocket League, whatever, right? You've done Call of Duty and things like that. That had to have changed for you a little bit, right? With just COVID and everything. How is that transition going to 100% online? Does it make it almost easier for you in the sense of your reach could be huge, right?
Right.
But it's also
Right.
kind of sucks because it's not the thing.
Right. So we pride ourselves on providing an experience, right? We did a little bit more than just provide the ability for people to come play. We had professional photography, professional interviews. We really cared about the entire experience from the moment someone walked in to the moment that they left, and really try to replicate that big time experience, the big sold out stadiums experience as closely as we could. And obviously with COVID, we couldn't do that anymore. And shifting solely to online events, we kind of lost a little bit of that magic. So it is slightly easier because no, we're not moving people around, we're not moving equipment to event spaces, but it's tough because you lose that personal touch, and it's hard to replicate that over the internet. Even with Discord, even with voice chat and video, it's very hard to replicate that personal touch. But we're still doing monthly events. We still do it every single month. I don't know how closely you guys are following Warzone, but they just announced their private server. So we're definitely doing stuff for that, and we're really excited about that. So we're still doing online monthly events. With it being online, it's very accessible to everybody. We've had players from Europe, from Asia, from South America, from Canada. So that was really cool seeing people come from all over the world. But we're still running online events. But what we've really been putting a lot of our energy and focus into has been our Aces Collegiate Series, which we're more than excited about, and I'm super excited to talk a little bit more about tonight with you guys.
I am curious. So you mentioned, one of the things that you try to bring to the table is giving the fans that big time experience, right? Like you said, with the photographers, the interviews, casting, things of that sort. So now that you have gone online, is there something else that you're offering to still give it a unique feel? Or is there something that y'all have been able to do to give it, still kind of give it some of that charm that it had before, right? Like, I know that that's tough, but I'm just kind of curious what the plan has been to maybe give that feeling to players still.
Absolutely. So what we tried to do is that we've still tried to incorporate the interview process into the online event. It's very easy to move someone into a Discord channel, talk with them for a couple minutes. So we definitely still do the interview portion of the events. And we also, we encourage our players to share pictures of them playing, or to get swag and wear their swag while they're playing and share that on social media. We've been doing giveaways, get people connected. And we've also brought in coaches to give highlights and clips and tactics and tips and stuff like that, and then share that out so that people can learn a little bit and get excited for the next event coming up. We've done, and then obviously with online, we record everything, so we chop it up and we upload it to our YouTube channel so that the players have a highlight clip of their games that they can share, which is always important for a player to share their success and what they've done, and also learn, right, so they can improve on their gameplay. So that's what we've been doing. We've been trying to find new and inventive ways to interact with our players. But we're still working on it, and we're excited about what we can do in the future.
So who are some of the universities that y'all have involved in this particular series right now?
For sure. So this past October, we launched our first ever Aces Collegiate Series. So let me talk a little bit about what it is first, and I'll be happy to talk about the colleges.
For sure.
What we do is we organize collegiate leagues for colleges that have already invested into esports. So colleges that have already set up teams, hired staff, and are looking for opportunities to get their players to play in high quality matches and play against other universities either locally or internationally, whatever it is that their flavor is. So especially now with COVID, obviously esports has just grown exponentially. And these colleges, unfortunately, are losing money a little bit because they've lost international students. They've lost, obviously, people on campus. But esports has still been a huge driver for engagement and recruitment. And so they put even more emphasis behind it during these troubled times, being socially distant. And esports is just a perfect socially distanced project opportunity. So we're trying to provide more opportunities for these colleges to participate. But we do a little bit more than just organize the league. We actually do full marketing for the teams so the colleges actually get a full package of professionally created marketing materials right to their doorstep, essentially, that they can use to promote their teams and their players. The way we kind of say is that we are ESPN and the NCAA merged into one entity, and that's what we do. And obviously, we broadcast all the matches online. And again, we do player interviews. We take track of all the players' statistics so we can upload that. And we really take a high touch approach to all the things that we're doing. Additionally, we create highlight clips, highlight reels of all the teams and the players if we can individually, and give that to the team so they can share that on their social media and promote their teams. And we've just found a lot of pain points in existing leagues that are already out there, and we're fixing those because over the last 2 years we've done events every month, and because of that we've built really organic relationships with the local universities. And they've given us the information that we need to understand what their bottom line is and what they're trying to do. And the entire ACES Collegiate Series has been specifically designed around those needs. So when we reach out to other colleges, we already have everything they're looking for because we already know what colleges are looking for because of our relationships. So you asked me, what are the colleges that we have in this first iteration? So we have 6 colleges here in Philadelphia. We have the Arcadia University, Drexel University, Messiah University, Misericordia University, the College in New Jersey, and Widener University. And those are the first initial 6 that joined our pilot season. And this Saturday is actually the final championship tournament. All the teams have played all month long. Their rankings are based upon their stats throughout the season. And now they get to play for the final championship to be crowned the first ever champion team of the ACES Collegiate Series. And we're incredibly excited about that.
So you did mention that is this Saturday, November 14th, 12 p.m. Eastern. And you can find it on Philly Esports' Twitter. And Twitch. So follow at Philly Esports, at Aces Series _GG on Twitter if you're interested in that. With the colleges and everything, have you noticed? But like when I was in college, there was no esports. Like the closest thing to esports that my college, which now has a team and a whole room in the student union and everything just for esports. But when I was at North Texas, we had like a closet to play Smash in, and that was it. Which professional.
Looking back at it, that's pretty unsafe considering that
professional. Anuj did it. I almost made a sex joke with Smash, but then I remembered Adam's a guest. We won't make inappropriate sex jokes of the Smash community.
We're close enough. I can make jokes in front of him. The dudes watched me shit in a CEO's owner's box for 3 hours at a primetime event. So I feel like we're like on another level right now.
That is true. Have you noticed though, like with the kids and everything, like is there more of I don't know what I'm looking for here, like a vibe from the students and everything compared to like your normal events, right? When it's college related and everything like that?
Absolutely. So the players that are going to the school for esports or they're on the esports teams, they take their performance very seriously and they take feedback very seriously. They're incredibly excited to be representing their college, representing themselves, and playing at this really premier scale because it's tough competition. So what's been really great is that these players take it very seriously. They work really hard and they're very humble. You know, even when they lose and they get blown out, which happens unfortunately in some of these games, you know, they don't take it personally. They say, hey, you know, we lost. We went up against a good team. We're going to do better. We've identified what we need to work on. We're going to work on it. So the professionalism, the maturity, and just the fact that these players truly understand the opportunity that they have. I don't think any of them are taking it for granted. And it really does truly come through when you talk to them one-on-one. They're very thankful and they love to be able to compete, especially against other really talented players so they can learn from them and improve. And that's what it's all about. So that's what we've seen. And it's been very humbling for us to get that feedback and to hear these players and how much they care about these series that they get to play in.
So, you know, I want to touch on something that you were talking about here, the talent level that we're looking at, right? So obviously you're also watching the professional matches and keep up with Rocket League and the Smash community and things of that sort. How, like, tell our listeners, how close is the level of competition that you're seeing in these types of events versus like a pro league event?
Absolutely. So the top tier teams, the top tier players are as good, if not better, than some of the professional players out there. They just haven't really had the chance to go up against other talented players for them to be spotlighted and brought up, out of the musk, I guess, right? So that's kind of what we're trying to help do. We're trying to help facilitate that opportunity to get those players known, get those teams known, so that people can start following them and checking with them and get them into those higher tier competitions. As a college student, you're focused on a lot of more things than just gaming. You're focused on your grades and staying healthy right now and all those things. So some of these players may not have been putting as much effort or as much energy into going to the competitions every month to get noticed, but they still have that skill level, and it definitely comes through. And what's really exciting about these leagues is that as we do them and as we grow, we can start building conferences that are not only regionally based, but also talent based. So that, because we're not limited by geographic location, everyone can play online, so that we can match up these colleges that have similar skill sets and see these players go at the highest level. So it's really great. But what's awesome about the collegiate esports scene is that it's a large spectrum. There's people at the very top that are absolutely phenomenal, and people that are just starting out, but they're getting to play against other colleges, learn, build a community, build a family, which is what we really strive to do. And it's really awesome to see.
Do you think part of that is also because maybe they're not recognized in the pro league, or not playing in the pro league, I should say, because maybe they want the education as well, right? Like, if you're trying to go into a pro league, you have to give up that aspect of it for the most part. There are a few exceptions here and there. Kerrigan, I know, went and got his master's in Counter-Strike. Elige, I believe, did the same. There's a couple of instances like that, but for the most part, a lot of people drop out of university when they try to go pro. So do you think that that's also part of the factor of, like, hey, these guys might be equally as good, but they also prioritize education in their case?
I would say so, yes. I think, there is a well-known idea or just fact, really, that to become a pro gamer, you got to dedicate a lot of your time to it. 8 hours a day, grind, depending on the game, right? But every video game, you need to grind to practice to get better. And these students are absolutely focused on their studies, focused on optimizing their time at these universities, especially while playing esports. But I think the difference, and I think you're going to start seeing more pro players come from the collegiate scene, is that they have a support system. Individual players that may have sacrificed college or relationships or working or whatever it might be to pursue their dream to become a pro player don't necessarily have the same support system and access to resources as a college player has. And I think that's a huge difference. College players have nutritionists, they have trainers, they have study groups, they have all the things that allow them to stay physically and mentally healthy. And I think we're going to start seeing a shift between the players that dedicate all their time against the players that are in college that have the support system. You're going to see those players excelling more because they're more mentally and physically fit, which allows them to perform even better in high tense situations. And I think that's where you're going to start seeing. It isn't quite there yet because COVID kind of made things a little weird, but I think in the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see a huge shift that the route to become a pro player is going to be through college and not grinding all day because of the access to resources and access to the support system to help you stay healthy through that endeavor.
I think another huge difference there too is going to be the college itself, right? Like I said, for me, when I was in college, if I told the college, well, hey, I actually just kind of want to practice video games, they'd be like, you're an idiot, do your homework. Whereas opposed to if you were an athlete for the school, they would be a little bit more willing to work with you as far as like your student schedule and your athlete schedule. Well, now if you can get these, we'll call athletes for the sake of the conversation, playing Rocket League or whatever esports they have, if the school can respect that and view it as any other collegiate sport, I think that's even bigger than the students changing their mindset. If you get the schools behind it, which I think like leagues like yourself and any other league out there who's doing it the right way, I think is huge when it comes to kind of that foundation for the college scene.
I agree.
Also helps that Rocket League is free, which is also awesome for college students. The fact that they don't have to buy a $60 game plus expansions and all that throughout the year, it's I'm sure that's changed your guys' outlook because you always did Rocket League, but before it was free to play, and now it's free to play. Have you noticed more of a want for Rocket League events?
Absolutely. I mean, there's more players. It's probably the most accessible esports out there right now. It's easy to understand, easy to pick up and play, and it's really fun. Even if you're not any good at it, it's a really, really fun game. They've done a great job with it. So yeah, there's definitely a need for it. We're always going to offer a Rocket League for the colleges. There's a lot of competition out there, particularly for Rocket League, but we believe that we provide a compelling alternative choice for people that want to get a little bit more out of the league than necessarily our competitors. But yeah, there's definitely a need for it, and we're always going to offer it amongst many other games that are out there right now, including Valorant, including Hearthstone, Super Smash Brothers. Colleges are adapting the Super Smash a lot. A lot of students play that game, which is amazing. So we're going to see a lot of leagues with a lot of different games, and we're incredibly excited.
Are y'all pretty excited for, I know you mentioned this a little earlier, and you obviously mentioned Valorant in a couple of these games because they have private lobbies, right? They give you the ability to set up these matches. I'm assuming the announcement for Warzone was pretty huge for organizations such as yourself.
Absolutely, yeah. We're seeing something like that where you don't really have access. I think with like Fortnite and other battle royale games, you had to buy a private server, or you had to work directly with the developers to get some sort of agreement made to get something like that. But being able to open that up to the public, it just explodes the esports possibilities for private companies like us, collegiate leagues, and many others, where now you can really track granular information. And that's really what's missing in the esports industry, is that granular tracking of data. And that's something that we provide with our league. And we're incredibly excited to see announcements like this, because AAA titles that do things like this, everyone else is going to follow with the new games that come out. So you're going to see this becoming more and more of the standard. Obviously, as technology becomes more accessible, it's easier, it's cheaper. Companies can do this without having to cost. It won't be much of a cost for them. So it's incredibly exciting to see that. And I can't wait for the possibilities of what we can do with it.
Well, I know I'm looking forward to it. I will, just for you and Philly Esports, I will reinstall Warzone for the third time.
All right.
And then quickly rage uninstall it after your event. How's that sound? So this Saturday, November 14th, 12 p.m. Eastern is your final. It's double elimination,
That's
meaning
right.
do we have a bracket reset chance in the finals?
Yep, absolutely. Bracket reset chance. Yeah.
Everyone loves a bracket reset. So we encourage all of our listeners to check that out. Again, it's if you go just to @Philly Esports on Twitch or Twitter, wherever, you will find it there. I promise. Adam, want to thank you again for coming on the show. As I've told you privately, but I've also told my wife, as soon as COVID's up, I think Philly is going to be like my number one. I want to go back to city. So I will see you eventually. I'll hit you up. We'll maybe catch a Flyers game or whatever the hell we can do at that point in time. Also, happy Veterans Day, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you for serving.
Yes, 100%. Thank you, Adam.
And
my pleasure to serve.
That's it. Anything else you would like to let our listeners know for Saturday?
No, just tune in, 12 o'clock sharp, Eastern time, twitch.tv/Philly Esports. We'll see you there. And as always, guys, it's always a pleasure to be here. Anytime you guys want to travel to Philly, you got a place to stay. And I'm honored to be a guest on the #1 esports podcast in the world. You guys are crushing it. I support you guys. No one does it like you do. Keep it up. Never stop.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Hey, are you allowed to tell us who the best college is in the event?
Say that one more time.
Are you allowed to tell us who's the best in Aces? What's the best school?
You have to come and find out. You have to watch.
Oh, that's the CEO for you. That's the boss man for you. All right, Adam, dude. We'll catch up later, man.
All right, gentlemen. Have a good night. Thank you.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.
All right, so there it is. There was Adam from Philly Esports, a good dude.
Really good dude. Really good dude.
Might
And,
be
I'm glad you mentioned that at the end, Tim, because I would have felt bad if we had let him off without mentioning that. So obviously, thank you to Adam and all the veterans out there. I know we have a lot of listeners that have also served, and so thank you, all of you guys for your service. Men and women for your service and everything, all the freedoms that you give us, including allowing us to do this show. So God bless you guys. Appreciate y'all, and again, thank you to Adam for joining us.
Yes. So like we said, Adam's a very good friend of ours. Met him up in Philly and everything when we were up there for the Overwatch League finals. So always happy to have him on. Check it out @Philly Esports on Twitter and support. Look, the main thing here is to support grassroots esports, because without grassroots esports, none of this would be possible. So it's guys like Adam and everyone over at Philly Esports, and it's not just him, right? He has a whole team of I think actually some paid people at this point. It's grown up to be that big, and volunteers. If you're in the Philly area, hit him up. I know he's always looking for help. whether or not you want to practice photography or anything like that. I'm sure he'd be more than happy to help you out any way he can to build up your esports portfolio. So again, grassroots esports, it's very, very important for the scene to grow.
They're starting to teeter out of that grassroots mode. Like they've grown so much since we've talked to Adam, and they continue to do great things out there. So obviously wish them all the best and continued success.
Absolutely. So let's get into some more of the beefier esports topics here. Let's start with catching people up, because like I said, I cannot believe we used to do one show a week, because I don't know how we were managed to fitting so many topics into one episode.
That's why we used to have 2-hour episodes.
Well, I mean, we still almost have 2-hour episodes. It's just,
that's the crazy part. Yeah.
It would be 4-hour episodes if we didn't do 2 a week. So let's catch people up on some of the big news that happened. Obviously, let's just start with the biggest, and that's, of course, Flashpoint. Flashpoint for Counter-Strike ended up starting. Season 2 kicked off this week, for those who don't know. And Anuj is going to take us round by round.
Yes, that's what I'm going to do. Envy had a little bit of a rough outing because they started off so hot against Forza, Tim, that I think it was like a 16-3 opening.
16-2 on Dust
16-2. And the game got so ugly after that. I know, Forza came out winning 2-1 there, but it was just a bad, really, performance. Almost it felt like both teams towards the end, and we really let that one slip. MIBR and Big was one of the other big matchups that people were kind of looking forward to, because MIBR was coming off that kind of miraculous run, you would say, right? A bunch of unknowns, threw together a team at the last moment. And then you have Big on the other end, who's kind of been performing well throughout COVID. Big take that matchup 2-1. Really, it just hasn't been like great CS. You had Mad Lions and Dignitas. Neither game was really that close. I know Fnatic 2-1 Contact, and Contact should have never taken a game off of them. It's so bad. I sent you a link, and we probably don't have the audio pulled for it, but even hearing the commentators talk about Flashpoint right now, they're not hiding it. I mean, they're talking about how bad the play is in that league right now.
For $1 million, I think the quote was, for $1 million tournament, we shouldn't be seeing this level of Counter-Strike.
We shouldn't, you feel bad for where some of these teams are at. Like, I know Envy's working on with this new roster, so they get a little bit of slack because they haven't played a ton. Cloud9, I think, could be one of the saving graces for Flashpoint, just in the sense of getting hype built back up, right? Like, Cloud9 has the massive following, and they have everything that you want from a team in a league. They just don't have a good team until now. And I think we're about to see what this Cloud9 roster is all about. Generally, you give a team a little bit of leeway early on. I don't think there's much excuse for them to come out and not play well early, in the sense of who they're playing against, right? You got to measure them against the competition. They're playing VP in the first round tomorrow. That'll be an exciting game to watch in my mind, because I expect to see Cloud9 do really well. I think the other end is OG, right? OG could be another saving team within this grouping of teams. Like, there's a handful of them that you really got to keep an eye out for. OG being one of them, Fnatic being another. And that's really kind of where the bar is set. Like, you have those 3-4 teams there that we're kind of discussing that you hope bring a high level performance day in, day out.
Not only do you hope, but Flashpoint hopes.
Yeah.
Because you really have Cloud9, Fnatic, and OG. Like, that is what this league is banking on to pull in. I mean, not so much OGs for the storyline, but for the viewers, Cloud9 and Fnatic. Like, it has to be those two teams that make it far into this.
MIBR as well, if we're talking just viewership.
For viewership, right? The Brazilians, true. I can't count those out. So, because even then, you're looking on Twitch, their viewerships, again, not that great. You're looking at 8,000, 10,000. I think I saw it peak one time during Fnatic around 15,000. Production is still on point. It's still one of the best ones out there. I just will always bring it up with Flashpoint, though, is that they were so cocky in the offseason. Again, so cocky going into the season. And when the biggest announcements you make are still about your talent lineup and not your teams, I think you always have to be judged with what you're putting out there. And right now, it looks like it's a repeat of Flashpoint Season 1, where the only reason you're watching this is because there's nothing else on.
Again, their saving grace could be if you get a semifinals or quarterfinals that include Fnatic, Big, Cloud9,
I'll watch.
MIBR.
I'm going to
OG,
wake up early
right?
tomorrow to watch Cloud9. This is
100%. Like Cloud9 is going to have great viewership tomorrow for them. It'll break any of their viewership records, I'm going to assume, tomorrow. Like I really wouldn't be surprised. But there's a handful of teams that just need to at least be there at the end that can like save this come playoff time, right? And we'll have to wait and see. But it's off to a little bit of a rough start. The play has been average at best. And to tout yourself as one of the two best leagues, which they are, because there's only two of them, so they're naturally going to be up there. You just need to see better performances, and so some of these rosters need to get flipped around too, right? Or pick up other teams. I don't know how that's possible, but I don't think that'll happen until they show good skill on the top half of this league, and that's still TBD.
Some other breaking news or big news that has happened in the week that we've had off was just actually earlier today. The real biggest news, in my opinion, and we've talked about it on the show before, and that's, of course, Hex acquired OpTic Gaming officially. And then now we officially have word that they are taking the Chicago Huntsman spot. Their Twitter has officially changed to the OpTic Chicago? Chicago OpTic?
Chicago.
It's OpTic Chicago, right? And, I mean, everything's right back in the world, Anuj. Just to kind of umbrella the conversation, we now have 100Thieves back in COD. They took the LA spot. OpTic is back in COD, taking the Chicago spot, which Hex is now. It's now again, Hex is OpTic. We can never have the meme anymore. It is back in the rightful spot. As much as I love making fun of OpTic and enjoy seeing them lose because the TCR curse, honestly, I think the biggest TCR curse hit just now with, Chicago Huntsman is gone. We cursed that branding so hard. They were just like, that's honestly why Hex bought OpTic back, because they were like, holy shit, TCR put Huntsman down to like the F tier ranking, and I can't have that.
No, you're 100% right. Like with these two players being back, I say players, like players in the game type thing. With these two teams being back in Call of Duty, with the branding, I know Chicago was there last year, but the branding of OpTic Gaming, having 100Thieves in the mix, and 100Thieves is like Nadeshot, right? Like having Nadeshot back involved with Call of Duty. Talk about hype going into season 2. This is how you win an off season, right? Like this is how a league wins an off season with moves like this. You don't attribute this to the league, right? This is 100% Hex, and I'm so happy for him. Like just seeing the joy, Tim, like I said, I know we joke about it a lot, but like he missed it. It's one of those things, like if we just sold off TCR and we still see it alive, you're going to be like, it's going to hurt every time you hear, oh, this is TCR with Jim and Bob, like it would just bother you, especially if the esports coverage went to shit, right? Like this is TCR and it's total garbage, right? Like it just wouldn't feel right to see how enthusiastic he is about, how happy he is, just how happy he is to have this back.
Well, him, the players, the fans. I'm more so happy to all the OpTic fans that can finally clean out half your closet and wear it again. Because you had a lot of OpTic fans that just never truly jumped on board with the new ownership group. In fact, I don't know if anyone truly accepted them.
It didn't. No one did. Right. I think the only people that did were the hometown fans.
Right
of LA. And you're lucky that Gorilla sucked. So OpTic was really your only team to truly even root for. But nobody had carried over. Like there were no Green Wall fans that were sitting there like, I'm going to stick with this OpTic. Like, no, Chicago was the new OpTic. Players, everyone had moved over at
Now,
that
I will say
point,
this though, although I mean you're absolutely right in the sense of like, yes, this was Hex's doing, right? This was Hex staying up at night with the gnawing thought of it really should be OpTic Chicago. Like, it should never be Huntsman. Huntsman was always just a placeholder in his heart for getting OpTic back. And I think he knew that. I think the original, or the former Immortal ownership group knew that as well. And I will also, though, you have to give credit to the league, because technically this didn't have to happen, right? Like, the league did have the commanding say, but good on them to realize what actually would print the money, and that is getting 100 Thieves back in. I don't know what their buy-in was. I can't imagine more than what other teams were, kind of would seem.
They probably didn't buy into the league. I'm assuming they bought it from the ownership group. So it's whatever, my guess is whatever they negotiated amongst one another. Like,
Okay.
I don't know if
That
you
would make
paid the
sense.
league directly. Probably not would
But
be
the
my
league would
guess.
still
But
have to approve that, is what I'm saying, right? And with the branding going
it
over,
would have been dumb if they didn't.
but that's
right?
what I'm
Like,
saying.
this was
Like, give the
easiest
league
decision
credit
to make.
Like, let's not act like leagues haven't been dumb before with their decision making.
100%.
So let's give credit where credit is due. We said it. We've said it all along that this is exactly what was going to happen. You had other people in esports kind of report it, but were like afraid to commit. And then you had other people saying that no, it wasn't going to happen. And it's like, are you joking? Like, this was always going to happen. As soon as the rumors started, you knew it was going to happen.
Sometimes you just have to read the writing on the wall, right? Like, it can be that simple. You want to fantasize about all these other scenarios, or, I know there was a lot of rumors about, Hex not being able to sell the spot to Nade Shot. Like, that was the only obvious choice. It was the only obvious choice, right? Like, and if it's that obvious, put it down in writing that it's most likely going to happen. Like, that's where you put your money. And like I said, for 100 Thieves, huge win. You're based out of LA. It's going to be easy to get people tied to your org. Like, you'll be able to make the roster you want.
They've kept the name Thieves, so it's LA Thieves. They didn't have to switch. Funny video, though. One of our listeners actually pointed out to us where they were talking about names that they were toying with in season 1, right? When they were originally looking at roster spots, they weren't going to get an LA spot, so that's part of the reason. But also, that's when the league was being stingy about names, right? And they're like, technically, you can't be the Thieves. And then all of a sudden, FaZe came out and found loopholes and things like this. So again, a very smart move by the league for lightening up on likeness of brand, right? Like, okay, you can be LA Thieves, right? Can't be LA 100 Thieves, but you can be the Thieves. Fine, whatever. And they actually did say that they thought about doing burglars. So another shout out to the 101 burglars. So they have to.
I'll take it. They have to know.
They have to know at this point. So I am. This is best case scenario for the Call of Duty League, a league that to me was already the winner of 2020 with COVID and everything. So for the fact that you're now going in with the storylines of OpTic is back with Hex, and to bury the lead of Scump being back on OpTic, you now have 100 Thieves back in. Like, what a way for LA fans to be like, oh no, we're losing our OpTic. Like, that's our team. And then just for Nade Shot to big dick his way into the city saying, guess what, boys? The doors are open. You just come in, pop a Nade Shot, has your back.
It's funny because they mentioned that there would be no expansion teams this year, right? No additional teams to the current setup that they have. Well, this feels like an expansion in some
This was
sense,
the only one
right?
people would have cared about.
Yeah, like this is it right here. This is like, I know, there's Team Cal. There's a lot of other historic names in Call of Duty, but nothing close to OpTic. And Nade Shot is a big part of that OpTic brand, which carried over to 100 Thieves. And so for both of these guys to, one to re-enter the scene, the other one to get his branding back, like, it feels like an expansion of some sort. And I'm really excited for that. And now look at the groups of orgs that you have involved, right? You have FaZe, Envy, OpTic, 100 Thieves. Like, there's so many really good organizations involved. I know we had some of the crap stories earlier with Toronto Ultra and how the treatment
Now
of their
Paris.
players and stuff with Seattle that was kind of going on. Well, this is like a really good fresh start going into season 2. This is what everybody is going to have their eyes on. It's just going to draw so much more attention. Like Green Wall Nation gets to come back and all that. So this is just a big win for Call of Duty League. Like it gets me excited for next year. You know, like I know the game is also launching tomorrow for a lot of people, and so it's just all of the timing on this is just wonderful for Call of Duty.
Yeah. No, I don't see how it could like anyone could be upset about it, right? Even for a self-entitled OpTic hater, I love to see it, right? Let me hate them.
It's literally a W in every aspect, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no losers here,
Now-
except for Immortals, and they got paid some of their money back. Maybe they, forget being in the league or whatever.
Look, they
but
had to have known this was the only way it was going to work, though. They
Yeah.
had to have, because you don't buy a brand like that with so much negativity surrounding it and then telling yourself, we'll turn it around. Well, don't worry.
we'll make it work.
Yeah, we'll make it. We'll make the. It's like if someone bought the Lakers or the Yankees and then said, "I think we're gonna change the name. I think we're gonna rebrand. It's just not working out." Like, you just don't do that, and that's what Immortals and them tried doing, and it didn't work out for them, which I think was always in the cards. Now, I did formally invite Hex back on the show. Hex, if you're listening, anyone from OpTic, if you want to come on the show, the door's always open. You always have a seat here. We will officially lift the TCR curse. Like, it's all
For that moment in time.
It's all fun and games that OpTic is back, but just keep in mind that they're never going to win a championship. So have fun with your spot, I guess, in the league. You'll need all the luck you can get. But I would love to have you on the show. Talk about it anytime. So there's that. Anything else for OpTic or 100 Thieves coming back in? What do you think of the Thieves branding?
Awesome. It's absolutely awesome. The color, like black and red's always classic, right? You can't go wrong there. Thieves branding is great. Obviously, merch is going to be fire for them because that's what 100 Thieves does. I thought it was awesome. Like I said, there's really no losing here because the Thieves branding is already on point. The 100 part of it, so what, like not being there, still very obvious.
Honestly sounds better because 100 Thieves I've never liked 100
Thieves sounds good. Like, again, this whole thing, I just can't find a losing aspect to it. But the Thieves branding on this, I thought it looked really cool. Like the hat that I saw that some of the guys wearing, some of the shirts that are already out there, I'm like, man, that's like really clean looking. I like it.
And one last thing to catch up on to here in the esports sphere before we get to some Valorant discussion is the fact that ESPN, Anuj, has officially announced today. Now, again, this was a rumor going on throughout the week as ESPN is doing massive layoffs across the board, not just esports. It was rumored that Jacob Wolf and some other esports people were being let go, which then fueled the fire of, well, are they just dropping esports entirely? That is the case. So ESPN did announce earlier today that they are no longer having their ESPN esports side of the business. Again, this is directly related to COVID and the layoffs that they've had to do, not just for esports, but across the board. I think I read an article that they had to drop like 10% of their staff, and esports just fell into it. So now this has everyone freaking out about the state of esports and how stupid ESPN is for dropping it and everything there. So I just wanted to kind of discuss this here for a second. Now, for you kids at home who are freaking out about this, okay? And we had friends involved at layoffs at ESPN. Kevin, friend of the show, League of Legends expert. We have all the time. ESPN Dallas, right? He did an esports show for ESPN Dallas, laid off. Let me ask you this before you start saying, why would ESPN do this? Okay. Let me ask you, how many times did you go to ESPN proper, ESPN.com, for your esports news?
I'm going to answer this two different ways here. So how many times did I go to ESPN to get information. Honestly, for me, it was zero. Now, there's other half to that. Jacob Wolf and uh, Fan on Fire, the esports writer. I did get a lot of information from both of them though, just through different social media outlets, right? Like
Right.
they're good follows on Twitter. They provide a lot of clarity to issues that are going on. They have a lot of inside information so that they know what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
Especially in certain games, like Finn, when it comes to League of Legends, knows almost everything. It feels like, right? Jacob is more to me like an insider,
Yeah.
right?
And I'm
Like he
not
just
knocking the talent. They had
no, yeah,
top tier talent, not so much content, which is part of their issue, right? But that's just
ESPN's fault.
that's ESPN, right? That's just ESPN, right? People complain about ESPN's content being boring, anyways, which even again for the esports it kind of was.
They haven't learned how to evolve. They just want to do these quick peak, like
Yeah.
2-minute highlights, and that's just kind of what they know. They didn't really figure out the esports scene. I think it's a mistake, though. I mean, regardless of us going there or not, they needed to resolve the issue of how to promote the content better versus then like getting rid of your esports department altogether because you don't know how to figure shit out. Like,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, so this is not the first time ESPN is abandoning quote unquote esports. When I was in high school, so this would have been back in like 05, 06, there was a section on ESPN for MLG, for Halo. And I remember sitting in class thinking, wow, what a revolutionary thing. Like esports is so big that ESPN has its own section for it with writers and stories and everything there. And then it went away. And then I thought, wow, this must be like a landslide for esports. Like this is not good. ESPN has stopped caring about it. What's going on? My point is everyone always says they want to be the ESPN of esports, but ESPN doesn't know how to handle esports, right? It's not only just because, like you said, the promotion side of it, right? That's also a mess there. Even when you went to their esports section, you could tell ESPN from a company standpoint didn't understand esports because it had like League of Legends with Counter-Strike, and it was just one section. It was esports. And that's not like, imagine just going to a sports website and just going, sports, click, and then having like cricket and football and soccer and everything just in one giant list. And you're like, really, I can't just figure out what I want to look at. So, I mean, yes, I understand it is a big deal and it is sad for ESPN to lose that spot for esports, but people are acting like this was their first time doing it. It's not. They've done it before. And they'll come back. When things level out for ESPN, believe me, they'll come back to esports. At this point, I almost think it's inevitable for them not to. But at the moment, it wasn't making them money. That's clear. If it was making, for people freaking out saying it was a huge mistake and they'll rue the day, if it was making them money, they wouldn't cut them.
yeah. No, that's true. Like I said, they didn't know how to profit off of the people that they had. The good thing is they hired good people. So they at least understand how to do that. I think it's on the back end of figuring out just how to use the talent that they have.
Because
they weren't able to do that. And it's not going to hurt the esports market that ESPN's not involved.
No.
I think it could hurt the potential growth in some ways, right? Like if ESPN promoted esports more on the actual ESPN network, that would be a good thing for esports. Like that could help grow the game, right? But with what we're losing from what they already brought to the table, it's really nothing ultimately. You're still going to get information from those guys on Twitter. They'll freelance their way into another couple jobs here and there, or do what they want to do because they have the talent to do that. But for ESPN, it's just another disappointment when it comes to esports. Like it's just mismanagement. And
I mean, it's really just
I think they're making a mistake, but we'll see.
Throw it up there with just like mainstream media, right? Like Kevin, former ESPN employee Kevin in chat mentioned, like, the talent on Twitter provided more coverage than they actually did on the website, which is 100% true, right? You talk about, well, Jacob Wolf and all these guys did so much stuff. They broke so much news. Yeah, but you retweeting something doesn't pay the bills on ESPN side, right? So that's also a difference. And the fact that he brought up like Yahoo had esports, which I thought was actually great coverage, right? Their talent that Yahoo had was really good. But again, just from the marketing standpoint of here's the issue, right? Where mainstream media falls or falters is they try going with the age-old saying, if you build it, they will come. Field of Dreams. Look it up, kids. It's a movie. If you build it, they will come. And that's not really how that works when it comes to especially articles, right? Like with ESPN or videos or things like that. You can't just say, oh yeah, we're covering esports now, so come to ESPN, people, right? Come to ESPN and click on this more section and then find out where esports is. That's not how it works. You got to have it out there. You got to have it out in front so people will find it, right? You almost have to build
Put
it.
it behind a paywall, make it an ESPN Insider thing, Tim. Charge us $15 to get our coverage.
There you go. Kevin asks in chat, we'll do a little question here for you. It says, he asks if we think that there will ever be a central esports coverage site or org, or has Twitter or Reddit ruined that? So my theory on that one is, ultimately, I don't think there will be your central located, because again, it's just such a wide net at the moment that esports can't, like, to say esports, you cover esports. It's such a wide net to where if you want to be a true ESPN of esports, you have to either A, get people willing to work for nothing or almost nothing, and B, also be willing to spend a lot of money, because you have to pay big people to drive in. And that's what ESPN does, right? They have your Woj, right? They have your Schefter.
Like that.
Yeah, they have your big guys, and then it's the little guys who keep the content pumping, right? Those big insiders, your Jacob Wolf, he'll hit you in the mouth with the big story, and then it's the little guys where you're going to see the content being
think
built
about
from.
all the shit that you see on ESPN throughout the day, right? Like all the other TV shows and stuff that they have, whether it's the Get Ups, the Pardon My Takes, the Around the Horns, like that's you're talking 24/7 coverage. I don't think that's really possible for esports right now because of the number of games that are involved within it. And you're right, you just have to hire so many experts from so many different areas, and they got to be like, you can't have one big name cover 5 different esports. Like it just doesn't work.
No.
Like that person would be overwhelmed and just pass out from the workload. So
I also think a little bit
it's a tough sell.
I think it's also like we, as in people, are to blame a little bit, because I feel like the content creating generation has also kind of ruined those types of sites, in the sense of we kind of think we know more than they do, right? It's almost like
In a lot of cases we do, though.
yes, I mean for esports, yes, but I'll throw names out there. I'm just going to use these as an example, just because you know the names and their stature. But like Richard Lewis, Thorin, Slasher, these big name people that we would look at and respect, and if a website had them all creating content for them, would be huge, right? The issue is like none of those guys are going to relieve power or take orders from a company like ESPN, who's just going to try to big dick you with their name and their business card and a check, right? Like Richard Lewis or Thorne's always going to be like, no. I'm not going to cover Counter-Strike that way, because it's not how you do it. I'm going to go do my own thing. Go follow me on YouTube, right? They don't necessarily need ESPN at this point. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's very true. They're just kind of anti-big establishment, right?
Right.
So they would not be the ones you would approach to do that. However, I think they could, like, it could be done. It's just, it's going to take them too much effort. Like, they just have to hire several people. Like Richard Lewis, Thorin, like these guys aren't know-it-alls either. They've just been around long enough to where they have the clout and can push their weight around, and deservedly so. They put in the time and the work to do so. But yeah, it would just be too difficult to have an all-encompassing 24/7, esports coverage.
All I'm saying is let's pump the brakes on this like huge hit on esports. Oh my God, I can't believe ESPN. Like I saw Jake Lucky do a tweet today, and he was acting like you read that and you would have thought we should just pack up our bags and give up on esports, because he was acting like ESPN bowing out was like just the end of esports coverage entirely. And it's like, bro, it's been done before. They've quit on esports before and they've come back. Guess what? they're gonna come back again. So, and even if they do come back, who cares, right? Like, as we've said, it's ESPN. That being said, ESPN, if you come back and you need some top tier esports coverage, you let us know. Okay, you let us know, and we'll show you the ropes, sir. All right, so there it is. There's some of the bigger news stories to catch up to as just kind of quick hits, more or less, to get into. All right, let's get into some Valorant news as we had the. I need a roadmap here, Nuge. We had the Nerd Street Gaming First Strike closed qualifiers wrap up. And now today we had the
UMG
open. First Strike open qualifiers start. Now these are the teams, and we'll get to in a moment, are either ones that they could be brand new teams that you've never seen before, but they could also be teams that failed to qualify from the last strike. So you're going to see guys like Anbox and FaZe, NRG, things like that. You're going to see familiar teams in this event as well. I think Cloud9, or did Cloud9 qualify?
No, Cloud9 qualified.
Okay, Cloud9 did qualify. They just also had an upset. But so there's all that for you. First Strike all of a sudden turned somewhat confusing for me, but nonetheless,
this is probably the most confusing tournament setup I've ever seen in my life.
It's a lot.
It's so brutal that Liquipedia doesn't even give you a description in the breakdown of how the tournament is being run. First of all, UMG has been a mess in terms of getting the team set up. Like, it's almost like they said they had the number of teams signed up, but then they really like didn't have everybody signed up. And
I stand. Cloud9 is in the UMG qualifiers, so they didn't go through the closed qualifiers for Nerd Street.
So making it to the quarters does not advance you.
It advances you to. So Cloud9 did not make it to the finals, what will be considered the finals, but they are in the teams that are qualified for the First Strike North American finals, right? Which only 8 teams will get in. The top 4 from Nerd Street tournament and the top 4 for UMG.
Okay, so it's top 4, not top 8.
Yes,
so making
it's top
the playoffs
4
did not matter.
You had to get top 4. So you have Envy, 100 Thieves, Renegades, who upset Cloud9, and Sentinels. Yep. So those are the 4 teams that qualified from Nerd Street Gaming's tournament. UMG now, which will have every team that didn't qualify pretty much playing in it, those top 4 will then qualify. So you'll have 8 teams total into what will actually be called Valorant First Strike.
Which is the main event will be held December 3rd through the 6th for North America.
Again.
So what we'll do is let's wrap up the Nerd Street close qualifier
it's
version of this.
It's confusing because everyone just us included, right? Because I didn't realize it. Everyone just keeps saying First Strike. Oh, we're in the First Strike qualifiers. Oh, we're in the closed qualifier. No, you're in the Nerd Street First Strike qualifiers. Like it's
like qualifier number 1.
Yes.
And qualifier number 2, So for Nerd Street closed qualifiers, we did have that event wrap up.
Yeah.
Tim just mentioned the 4 teams, again, being Renegades, Envy, Sentinels, and 100 Thieves. I think some notable teams then that are obviously going to be fighting for their lives here would be TSM, did not make it through. T1 was also not top 4. They were top 8. And then Cloud9, in complexity as well. But I think T1, TSM, and Cloud9 are kind of more considered, kind of the best of the best type thing in that sense. T1 a little bit more to prove there than the other 2. For the teams that did go through, I got to say who I'm impressed with, Tim, because this caught my eye right off the bat. Kind of briefly caught some of their games. 100 Thieves, okay? 100 Thieves, not only did they take out TSM in the quarters, they took out Sentinels in the semis. Now, you could tell yourself, well, Sentinels maybe you already knew they had advanced, right? Because that was top 4. This was more of a seeding thing at this point going into the main event. But for 100 Thieves, with the new group that they have, obviously Nitro, being an addition to the team, Asuna, Dices, and these guys, two really impressive two really impressive wins leading into the grand finals. Maybe they took a step back, I guess you could say, after the grand finals in that sense. But to come out beating TSM and Sentinels in any tournament, that's something to boast and kind of get your ego going pretty good.
Yeah, I thought 100 Thieves was definitely impressive. To me, though, the team that takes the crown for being the surprise of the event, it's got to be Envy. They've been looking good leading into like the playoffs and everything, but for them to be, I mean, you got to think with Envy, they are kind of like the poster boy for what I would call the new wave of Valorant teams, which is kind of silly to say when the esports scene is barely taken off. But Envy was not a part of those original teams that got in early. Looking at like Sentinels, T1, Cloud9, even 100 Thieves, even though they were late to the party, they were early, right? They've just made roster moves. TSM. Envy was not part of that. Envy said, we're getting in, but we're not going to get in early and just break the bank to sign some of these guys, right? That's just not our style. We're going to find the right guys to compete. Sure enough, they did. They've had to make roster moves, kind of forced to making roster moves, keep in mind, because what's his face?
Akis and Calypso, both of those.
The Counter-Strike throwers from the Mountain Dew League, right? They were caught up.
Now both of them. I think that's generally just Calypso was tied to it.
Sorry.
Akis also put a tweet out there trying to be very clear that
I was not part of this.
I just sucked. I did not throw.
I just suck at the game. I did not throw matches. Okay, please get this right. So, but they were still The thing is they were forced to make roster moves and then picked up two guys that were dropped, right? So which is also kind of ballsy to pick up people that were recently dropped, because normally especially in a game that's so young and the player pool is massive right now, like you could pretty much throw a rock down the street and find a former like Counter-Strike top tier pro that would probably want to try it. The fact that they pick up two guys that were dropped and to still kind of come out and perform at a high level, winning the qualifier, to me, they are the biggest surprise to take away from the closed qualifiers for Nerd Street. So
I'm going to go against the grain on this one with you here. I don't think they're a surprise in the sense that they have played well. They've been close in a couple of events to taking first place, just haven't been able to get over the hump. We mentioned FNS, at least I know I've mentioned FNS a handful of times as being a huge addition to this team in the sense of he's not out there to top frag, right? But he's not a bad fragger. Like he's going to be a good aimer in the game. But to have his level of knowledge on a young team, a young game, I think is really invaluable. Food and Crashies, you're right, like big pickups. But I don't think, looking at T1, I think it's pretty safe to say that they were not the problem, right? I don't know what T1's problem is. I'm not going to accuse anyone of being the problem over there, but they played in an era of T1 where you didn't have arguably one of your best players in Skadoodle actively playing. You were playing with subs at that time. It's not like Brax and AZK are playing out of their mind, even during that time, right? It's not like they were on some elite level and Food and Crashies were just holding them back. So I think they prematurely got dropped, but now looking at who T1 picked up, at least with Days, like it kind of made sense, right? The Spider pickup still a little questionable.
It makes sense, but I'm just saying from a mental standpoint, the mentality to pick up two guys in Food and Crashies who were recently dropped, to me,
I think to the fan, it looks like, oh, you're taking a flyer on these guys, right? I think anybody within the game, though, will tell you like they're two of the two elite level players that deserve to be on a team. In fact, Food led the finals for them in first of all, it was a 3-0 domination over 100 Thieves. Food was your best performer on the team. Crashies wasn't really that far behind in that sense, but Food carried the load there. It's just impressive to see them continuously get better. And that's the part that it's like hard to do in a young game where you're like consistently improving because everybody's making changes, right? It's not like you're playing against Astralis who, you probably know what they're going to execute at this point, but it's still really hard to stop them. Like everybody's making changes in this game right now, and they've continued to get better in each event that they're in. And so I'm super happy for these guys though. Like they're to see FNS come out with a number 1 seed from this event. Neither of us probably saw that happening. There was several other teams that we would slate as probably the favorite going into it, but I think they've put themselves up there, right? Like them, Cloud9, Sentinels. I think those 3 teams to me are really starting to separate themselves from the rest of NA. And you'll notice I didn't say TSM because I think TSM has just faltered too many times now. I think they're an elite team, but they've faltered too much. Like, if we're not going to give T1 a pass, I also can't sit here and continuously give TSM a pass for like not beating Sentinels or not winning when they make it to the finals and Sentinels isn't playing. Like, they found a way to lose games, and that's all we can look at right now is wins and losses. So I think with where it's at right now, Sentinels, Cloud9 consistently making finals, Envy also been in a couple of finals and now winning
but
one.
Cloud9 did shit the bed here. They lost 2-0, losing in quarters to Renegades.
Yeah, they did, but that's like their one slip up in the sense of most of the, and they still made the, in the sense they still made the playoffs in this scenario. But you're right, like this loss was not a good one. Like Renegade should not be one of the top 4 teams making it out. Cloud9's name was written all over that slot, and now they're going to have to do it in UMG. But I think Cloud9's also, been in a handful of finals now, and it kind of shown that, hey, TenZ is, if not the best player in the world, one of the best players in the world. And that being said, that gives them the ability to be dangerous at any point. TSM, it's just kind of hit or miss with them, kind of across the board, right? It's not like they have all elite level players, but it's not like any of them are average either. Like they're all above average. They just don't find a way to put it all together.
Yeah, TSM's kind of one of those weird teams because they're the only team from, and again, I just, my brain separates it from like you have like your originals, your OGs, and then your newer kind of new age Valorant teams. TSM is like one of the only early adapters that haven't really made a roster move, and not progressing forward, right? With T1, the reason I just kind of look at them a little differently is because they did make roster moves and they're still not working out, if anything, in a worse spot. Now, I think the writing's on the wall that was all just because they wanted to play with their buddy and everything like that. I think that's what we're seeing there. But still not working out for T1. TSM, though, you almost worried that because they're still, the thing is with TSM is the issue is trying to think of, should you make a roster move? Should you fix things? Is when they're playing good, they are top team. They're a top 3 team, top team on NA side when they're playing good. The issue is they have that unique ability though, just to kind of slip up. It's almost like they think, this will be an easy one, and then they're just mentally not there.
Yeah, they're 1-3 in their last 4 games against Cloud9. They dropped 2 best of 3s to Dignitas and Pop Flash, and Dignitas didn't look good in this event. They lost in the upper finals to Gen G. I think that was in the Pittsburgh Knights event. They've been kind of like Sentinels had their number early on, although TSM did beat them last in that best of 5, but they also had a map advantage and that went the full 5. So, that's they started up 1-0 and won by 1. So take that for what it is. So again, this is not saying that TSM is a bad team at all. They are one of the best teams in NA. I just need to see a little bit more consistency from them to be like, they're one of the top 2 teams in NA. They're there. They're close. They're not too far away. It's just they got to find a way to get over some of these hurdles that keep holding them back at bad times, right? Like I need to see them win some events ultimately. Yeah.
I mean, that's what you want to see back from TSM, because right now they went from being a top team to maybe like a top 5, top 10. So we'll see. But moving on to the UMG side of it, you've had like I said, this is where you have some of the bigger teams again trying to qualify once again, right? You got to kind of keep up here. Gen G, they are going to play tomorrow against FaZe Clan in the round of 16. They have moved on. Moon Raccoons actually have moved on to the round 16, so we've seen them now enough to where I think you should probably start taking note of them.
Both of those teams, because they're both teams that a lot of people probably haven't heard of. And that would also be like Mamba Mode Gaming and Moon Raccoons. Both have done well enough, you're right, Tim, in multiple events now where it's, okay, I'm recognizing this name at the very least, right?
Yeah.
Like this has now become a familiar name. And that's awesome. Like that's what we were hoping to see, right? Like where's all this hidden talent within the game? It can't just be these ex-pros that got signed on to big teams because they had the names. It was where all these other guys coming in, and both of those teams are teams to watch out for there.
One of the few, I mean, there really hasn't been a whole lot of upsets. I guess you could say Flow State ended up knocking out Xset, the former FaZe ownership group who created that org, ended up losing 2-0, and now they're set to face the Pittsburgh Knights, who have a newly signed team. Pittsburgh Knights have found their way into Valorant. You had Anbox defeating, and this is the only one that I think you can look at and say, come on, guys, is NRG Esports. They ended up defeating them 2-1. NRG, like I said, I feel bad for them because they were one that they also said, hey, we're going to take our time getting into Valorant. The price point is super high. We don't want to jump in early and just overpay for the sake of overpaying. Maybe it's because they spent all their money on OpTic and now they have that brand back, so they're not worried about it. But they can't be thrilled getting knocked out of early qualifiers now for these two big tournaments that I think they actually got knocked out by Anbox in both, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know how happy they are about that, but I would expect.
I think they
more.
got knocked out by Sentinels in the first one.
Was it?
Like, or at least Sentinels like 13-0'd them. I'm pretty sure.
And Complexity. They were knocked out by Complexity.
Okay.
So still though, a newer
one
team.
One of their
right?
matches was like a 13-0 or something like that, where they got completely stomped on. Yeah, you know what though? I think they have a good roster. I think they'll be fine once they just get a little bit more time under their belt, because they do have Som, Daps, EEIU, Kohler. Like these guys have.
I'm a pet, right? Can't sleep on that.
I'm a pet as a coach. Like I think they'll be fine given time. But yeah, this has got to be disappointing for this is also a tough matchup at this point in the tournament too. Like that felt like it happened a little early. And unfortunately, that's just the way it falls. But that's a tough matchup early on, because also with Ambox, they won their first event that they played in. For them, they're kind of getting their groove a little bit here. I know they got knocked out early in the first half of this event, but they also have a stacked team, and this was just a tough matchup this early in the event.
Yeah, they were kind of one of the early ones to kind of face off what I would consider two quote-unquote pro teams early on, right? You big orgs have the money to pay good players, and they were kind of early on in that lineup there.
So
like
in the same row of games, right?
Yeah.
You had teams like Spot Up and Dimedome playing each other. You had Serenity and Shiba playing each other. You had Soar and the slimy Boogerman playing each other. So there's like matchups in there where it's like, damn, that really was a hard matchup at that point in the tournament. And like I said, that's just the way it falls. But again, just a tough spot to be put in there. Now you have Anbox winning against Built by Gamers in this next round here, which I think is an easier matchup than what they just faced with NRG in that sense. Did have Ninja's team eliminated, Tim. I know you're disappointed to hear that. They were knocked out by the Moon Raccoons, and so I know that may take a little bit of time for you to let that sink in, but unfortunately, Ninja's team has been eliminated.
I always see the team, and I forget that that's his team. Time in?
Yeah, time in.
Yeah. Man.
Put the time in, Tim. It's going to pay off. Except
is that really what it is?
Maybe the next time. I think so.
Is that really put the time in? All right, well, stay hard, Ninja. Hopefully it all plays out for you. Hopefully he can rebound his career from this loss.
Yeah.
That's
tough. Like
that's who I'm worried about is Ninja in this one. The
Poor
loss
guy's
will
only
probably
sitting on 30 million. He really needed the
he needed this win.
he needed
the
a 100K
qualifier.
split to put him over the top. He doesn't have the FU money yet.
One of the other things to note, though, here, just apart from these events and the teams and everything, is the fact that Riot has announced for the EU side of First Strike is that they're no longer permitting co-streaming. So, like the community streams that we see, and I think this is all across the board. I think it's not just for EU, but like TSM Myth and everything like that. It was streaming matches. He can no longer do that. I guess it was only a matter of time until Riot put their foot down and weren't allowing this. A bit weird for in the middle of your event, and especially when those co-streams have been pulled in more viewers, and that might have been why they're saying, hey, this isn't right. Our streams that we're going to sell advertising for isn't getting the viewers, and this co-stream is getting 20,000 and we're getting 5,000. Like, that's not right. So I'm sure it's all business related. Just a weird time.
A little bit odd for the EU side because they didn't have streams set up to broadcast the game. So you could only watch POV streams, which they allowed that, right? If you were a player, you could POV stream, but like, odd because you don't have like your proper stream set up for the EU side, and that event's already progressed through the first stage of theirs is run a little bit differently. They have qualifier A, qualifier B, and then an A/B playoffs to determine the top 4 that make it through. So a little different way of setting up the EU side, but there was really no like good way to watch some of these matches on the EU side. There were so many games that were just missed, unfortunately.
Yeah, so still little kinks to work out there for Riot and their streaming, but overall, like I said, apart from the format that just ultimately got super confusing throwing in this UMG one, overall, still I think we're getting good Valorant action. For sure.
In every region, which that's the best part. Like, I know we're only talking NA, but really, like, maybe we spend some time one day diving in a little bit more to the EU side, but you have First Strike Turkey, CIS, Brazil, Oceanic. I don't even know what this other one is, and I'm going to sound dumb, so I'm not going to say it. But I think it's the Middle East. Middle East is going on as well. So it's really just crazy to see like how broad, like how wide this is.
Also, fun fact, the Brazil, and I think this is still the case, will be held on LAN.
Oh, way to ruin e-news, Tim.
Oh, is that on e-news? I'm just
No, it's fine. Yeah, Brazil will still be on LAN.
How is that possible?
If Brazil is doing LAN before NA, we are doing something wrong with COVID over here.
I thought Brazil was about to be like donezo because of COVID. Like, we canceled the CS major because of it was being so poorly over there. Now all of a sudden we're having a Valorant LAN? Or is it just the fact that everyone has COVID? Maybe that's what we're just getting to the point where now there's just so many people with it. They're like, whatever, just
a little different canceling the Counter-Strike major LAN, right? Because everybody's flying in. Like, no teams from Brazil were making the major except for maybe Fury anyway.
It's more of a travel.
These are all going to be local teams, so they'll all just have COVID anyway.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, everyone has it, so what's the big deal?
Yeah.
You can be in the same room. That's okay. All right. Well, there's some Valorant for you. Let's get into some e-news to wrap up the show. In CS, we had Flashpoint Season 2. As we discussed earlier, it was underway, so keep an eye on that. Eventually, there'll be a good matchup. Cloud9 does play tomorrow, so for those interested. Gilded Esports. This is David Beckham's David Beckham?
Uh-huh.
It was him, right? David Beckham, his investment venture, is planning on entering CSGO. Hey, you know what? We've said it before. Even though we made fun of him for the David Beckham story about paying him more money than he invested in, I am happy to see that they are actually doing stuff.
Oh, yeah. No, they're doing big things, and we'll talk about them again.
More than, like, they are serious. They're not your normal athlete-invested org that just sits there. This is...
signed a great Valorant team. They signed Team Bonk, which was one of the better EU teams.
Yeah.
If they decide to get into CSGO, that would be great. And then also, obviously, like I said, we'll get into them here in a moment, but they've signed another champion to their roster.
Dead and Taco to build a new team with Phelps, is it Dumao? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
And Lato. So we have a little former MIBR getting together again.
And we'll see who the fifth is. If this team actually does all come together, Dead will obviously be the coach. He's not going to be playing. But yeah, interesting. It seems like a lot of the Brazilian talent likes to make their own team. It's like kind of their thing. So we'll see where this goes.
Yeah, I wonder if that's just because the other outside of MIBR and Immortals, and Furia, right? Like the Brazilian teams, like the org level drops off, right? Not saying that you're a lesser org, but when you go from playing an MIBR, right, you're probably not going to sign with just any old org because, hey, you're offering me a contract, right? They want to see something there. So we'll see.
Luminosity and these guys have been in there in the past, and we've just kind of seen them vanish
SK,
out of that scene.
I mean, I've seen on Twitter SK has toyed around with going back to Brazil for CS, so maybe this is a good time for them. So we'll see what happens there. IEM Beijing, NA, and EU are currently taking place.
We'll kind of dive into that probably next week as that goes further along.
Yeah, soon to be.
But good matchups there. So if you're looking for some good CS, you can definitely find it
early morning CS
on the EU side. So catch some games during the day.
In COD, another pro has retired as Enable announced his retirement after many years into he was former Seattle. He was part of that kind of Seattle fiasco. Off the starting roster, benched time and time again. COD has got the best of him, and he has announced his retirement.
That has a lot to do with also the 4v4 setup coming into this league. There's probably just not a ton of roster spots available. And, hey, maybe, Tim, we see Enable go back to Halo.
Maybe. His retirement speech doesn't lead me to believe that. It seemed like he was done as far as
it does. I agree.
Because he's like, I'm just going to retire from professional gaming at that point. So hopefully we see him more on the desk, right? I think it's important to keep him because he's also, I think he's been on the desk before, if I'm not mistaken. He's just a good talker. If you go to his YouTube, his YouTubes are not like your normal pro YouTube where it's like, hey, what's up, guys? Today we're going to do headshots, right? It's he's actually breaking down stuff and talking about it. So I would like to see him on the desk.
You wanted to see him involved one way or the other. Just another big name with him and Cap. That's two huge pros retiring this year.
Yep. And the FPS news, E United, was it really just in this last week? I thought we talked about this, but E United leaves Siege. That's story number one. They left Siege. Now, where it gets juicy is because the rules for Rainbow Six Siege Pro League, the roster, the org, owns the league spot. So now their roster, the players, lose their Pro League spot because the org owned that spot, who then left. So then, if the players got to be re-signed, right, they automatically, by the rules, get bumped down to last place. There's no relegation matches. In this case, Tempo Storm moved up one spot, so they no longer have to play in a relegated match. To put the cherry on top, the players from E United found out they were losing their spot in the Pro League by the same tweet we all found out they lost their spot.
It's like an early yikes of the week right there.
It really is. There are some yikes of the week for you. So, I go back and forth on this in my mind of who should own a league spot, the org or the players. I think I've created the perfect system. I think if the org announces that they are leaving the sport, in this case, E United announced they are leaving Siege, the players should hold the spot.
I agree.
If the org announces that they are dropping their roster, but continuing in the league, the org should own that spot.
That's exactly how it should be. There's no doubt about it. That's exactly how it should be. And for these players, heartbreaking because first, the tournament circuit for Siege is just not there. Right? There's not a huge tournament circuit. You're waiting for these really big events.
Yeah, people love the majors, right?
Yeah,
but it's just
everybody loves a major. everybody loves a major. Doesn't matter what esport it is. A major is always exciting to watch, right? It's always fun to see a champion crowned. But when you have a relatively small tournament circuit, that makes it really hard for potential orgs to come in and get into play. And so, really unfortunate for these players. You hope they find a home. You doubt it'll be all 5 of them, but together at least. But maybe. So hey, look, if you're a big org out there and you're looking for a team, one just landed in your lap,
it still
right?
Sucks though, because like you are buying as an org, and this also I think is a dumb thing, right? As an org, you are buying a last place team. Like, because that's just how their rules are. Their rule is those players will start in last place. So
at least capable of playing at that level, though,
of
right?
course, yeah. I'm just saying, it's just they really don't make it appealing from any standpoint to continue on. Like at this point, former E United players just go sign with a Valorant team, right? Like just switch games at this point. Go play Valorant. So in LOL news, League of Legends news, Perk's buyout is rumored. It's been breaking out there. $5 million potentially going to Cloud9.
Yeah, potentially going. There's been a couple of teams rumored. Yeah, I think even Fnatic's name came up in some of these discussions, and I don't even know if any of that shit's real. But the buyout number,
$5 million.
Jeez Louise, like that is insane. If that is accurate, I
don't want to hear from you orgs that it's hard to make money. Okay, like I don't want to hear it from you guys. This woe is me. We're orgs. We can't make money. If you're buying someone out for $5 million, you're doing okay.
You're doing just fine.
You're doing okay.
Absolutely insane number, though. I mean, that would be the biggest transfer we've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, easily. I mean, hell, we're blown away by $1 million in CS still, right?
Yeah, I think Cold Zero was like considered to be close to $1 million transfer, and that was like
that was mind blowing.
You're paying what?
$5 million. All right, especially when you think of it, like if it does go to a team like Cloud9 who missed Worlds last year, like is really one player is what you think you're going to hold, like one $5 million player is what's holding you back? Mm-hmm. More power to you if that's what you think, but damn. Battle Royale news, Tommy, that's right, Tommy from Call of Duty, formerly of the Dallas Empire, was a bench player for them, signs with 100Thieves as a Warzone team and content creator.
I think we're going to see a lot of Warzone teams being signed all of a sudden.
Well, with the private servers and everything, you're
huge.
So this is for multiple reasons, right? I think orgs value Warzone, but they don't want their pros playing it, right?
Exactly.
Like we don't want you, insert pro, Crim6 or whoever. We don't want you focusing your time playing Warzone and doing Warzone events for us. So we are going to sign a Warzone COD player and have him do it, right? They want
like a J-Cap or an Enable step back into the scene, possibly.
Yeah, and to them that might be fun, right? Like, okay, I mean, I can play casually, don't take it serious, whatever. Warzone is 99% content, anyways. I could see for a lot of these bench players, might be a little bit more appealing, right? You're technically on a starting roster to compete, so.
Yeah, I think we'll see a lot of signings for Warzone teams coming up now, though.
Yeah. Yep. In fighting game community here, we have Smash Majors has returned. For me, Smash has kind of been non-existent. I know they've had online events and things like that, but nothing like Smash is used to. Well, we will have some normalcy returning as the Big House is returning, this time online. It will be the first time ever that the Big House is held online, December 4th through the 6th for Melee and Ultimate. So, like I said, it's exciting because Melee just got those new I'm screwing, whatever. Melee people are yelling at me right now, but they got their new online format, however they got it working. And from what I've heard, it's pretty flawless. So the fact that we can have a major tournament like the Big House, which to me is top 5 esports event of the year, I'm good to see it back. So Big House, University of Michigan, shout out. In other news, ESPN, we already talked about that. ESPN abandons esports. Xbox and the PlayStation 5 launch. Xbox launched what, yesterday?
Yesterday, yeah.
PS5 tomorrow?
Yeah, right around the corner.
Is it weird for the first time in my life, I am not buying a next gen system, to the point I didn't even know they came out until I saw people getting it on Twitter.
I was gonna say, do you even miss it? Like in the sense of like right now, you're seeing all these posts come out with the Xbox and shit. Not all of them have been great, right? Like overheating or not turning on and things of that sort. But like not the vape stuff that I know we've all probably seen
That
online
happens.
at this point. But I mean, like, I don't feel like I'm missing anything.
No,
Like I'm just
like,
all
because
right.
normally it's like I get so excited. Like I said, I'm the guy who I'll go camp out for 24 hours. I'll do the midnight release, and I guess like I miss some, because that would be cool. Like for you and I to go to a midnight release, you know, it's just, you normally got the boys together to go do it. And then you went home, hooked it up, and then you waited 5 hours for it to do the first update. And then you never played it. And then you got to do it the next day. I guess I miss that. But at the same time,
I'll still maybe come around to it just like a year or so from now.
yeah,
then,
you know, on some Black Friday deal.
Yep.
Maybe, you know, it's so weird. It's like for the first time, I feel liberated. It's like, oh, all right. Now we just got to get those 380s back in stock. You know, we just need that back. Gilded Esports, Devo, signed Devo to the Rocket League team, former world champion. So again, Gilded Esports are making waves in the esports world. And also back to our last AMA too about big esports getting into Rocket League. I would say this classifies as a big esports org, just because the fact that they are, you could see how aggressive they are making their push into esports. I actually think that's probably better than a big staple org getting into it, right? If you're getting new orgs into it, brand new to esports who are buying in, probably speaks a little bit more than a Cloud9 going back into it.
Yeah.
So there's that. And some sad news to get to here. Call of Duty Pro Pharaoh has ended up passing away as of yesterday. His family broke the news, and team broke the news on Twitter. So family members are saying it was due to a heart attack, multiple heart attacks at that. So, of course, we give a hefty stay hard to Pharaoh. Just incredibly sad and unexpected news. Like, not something you were expecting to see. Especially
like
from a guy.
2020 continues to, like,
for so
rear
young.
its head. It's just...
For so young to have heart attacks.
It's crazy.
You never
I mean,
know.
this is more reason for these teams to continue to invest in the physical and mental side for player health. And this is just a devastating loss. I mean, just a kid, right? Like, we look at these guys as pros, but that's like a child, dude. It's like a 21-year-old that passed away. And you just feel for the family. I feel for his friends, his former teammates. Like, you can see how hard it hit all of these guys, and the outpouring of emotion that you see coming on Twitter. He's going to be missed. He'll be remembered, and just devastating for the esports community. It's not a COD thing, like, we all lost somebody in this sense. And so, just keep them in your thoughts and prayers, and look out for yourselves, guys. Like, you got to take care of yourself. And I should be listening to my own advice when you see stuff like that happen to a 21-year-old, because it's that's a tough loss on everyone. So
take it from, if you might be 21 thinking that you're super old, take it from two super old dudes. 21 is not old. It's very young to have this happen to you. And again, with your friends and everything around the same time, same age, it's rough. It's just rough. So I will also say shout out to everyone on Twitter arguing his reason or cause of death. Who fucking cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? We're seeing more posts of people arguing on how he died than actually just saying, hey, RIP and let's get together.
No, for sure. That disappointing to see all these different rumors going around, like, let him pass in peace, so.
Yep. So stay hard, Pharaoh. CDL, let's get a award, right? Let's get an award set up.
Something. Honor him. And find a way to honor him.
There'll be something for sure. Well, that will do it for this episode of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast, presented by Alt 287. It's done. It's in the books. Thank you so much for listening. We will be back regular scheduled programming on Sunday night to record live for Monday's show. To stop by, we have Yikes of the Week already. Some yikes locked and loaded, ready to get to. So we can't wait for that. Are we doing the documentary next episode? I forget what we told people.
No, 'cause
Wednesday,
we're not
next
prepared.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Next Wednesday. I think we said Wednesday. It would be weird to do a documentary review on a Sunday. So next Wednesday night, we will do the League of Legends documentary on Netflix. So you have a week to watch it. We'll tweet it, everything there for you. But we'll be back Sunday to talk some more esports goodness. Thank you, Adam, again from Philly Esports for coming on the show. Check them out at Philly Esports. Their finals for their college league starts Saturday at noon Eastern. So thanks again. I'm Tim for Anuj. We'll see ya.